Some economic understanding is always good, especially in these uncertain times. So, seeing as I have a master's in economics, I can tell you things about things other than which dope man had the most mink coats in Detroit in 1989. So today's topic is, what's a potential... The stock market just dropped because of something that happened in AI. What is that and why? It was something very specific, not general. And then also I want to talk about the real economy, whose real problem for really most people, and as we know from housing crisis, is the fact that how housing costs are so high. So I'm going to backtrack into AI and do the housing costs. So from the year 1890 to 1970, the inflation rate of housing and the general inflation rate of all goods was just about the same. So if a pair of shoes cost $2 in 1890 and a house costs $5,000, then in 1970, if a pair of shoes cost 20 times as much, then a house cost $200,000. Right? So an equal portion. People were spending about the same portion of their income on housing in 1970 as they were in 1890. And what the definition of inflation is a rise in the general price rise in a wide basket of goods. So just because your favorite ice cream doubled its price, that's not inflation. That's just your ice cream doubled its price. If everything in the supermarket or almost everything in the supermarket went up by twice, that's inflation. Starting in actually not 1970, but about 1975, and there's a bunch of reasons, primarily the oil crisis of the early 70s, Bretton Woods, we left the gold standard, and I'm not a gold bug, but we're not going to get into that. But something changed structurally in the economy, and I think a price of a house now is about, on average in the U.S., is 10 times. No, it's more than that. Well, you can look up the statistics, but it's doubled. So the inflation rate of housing has doubled. Oh, by the way, that was Frank Matthews' purported son texted me. Housing prices have doubled the general inflation rate. So if shoes cost $1 in 1975 and now they cost $10, and houses cost $10 in 1975, now they cost, what did I just say? What was my example? We're just going to say doubling. So if shoes cost $1 in 1975 and now they cost $2, then if houses cost $10, now they cost $25. So long story short, we're paying a lot more, a portion of our income. And in fact, a lot of that has happened just since the year 2000. And I'm not telling anyone, any of you guys, most of my viewers are between, almost all of my viewers are between 25 and 54, and most of you are 34 and up. So you've paid rent, and you know, I mean, shit, since 2019, prices, rent has gone up, home prices. Now we may be about to see a correction in that, but even if there's a correction. So obviously that's one of the things you can't get away from. I mean, like, cars are very important, but I mean, you can drive less. You can restrict yourself to only going to work, taking the kids to school. Food, you can spend a lot of money at the supermarket, but as your budget tightens, as we all know, you know, if you eat vegetable with potatoes and rice, which is a healthier diet than most people eat, you don't have to spend as much. So you can easily cut that type of stuff. Very, hard to cut housing prices. I mean, for one thing, especially as you're a family, you're living in a house, you and the wife in the bedroom, your daughter got a bedroom, the son's got a bedroom. Even if you're renting, like, just moving alone is it's going to cost you. So you'd have to, as your rent goes up, and what, are you going to try to find some place that's got 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, just like this place? What, are you going to move to a worse neighborhood? Is that going to add to your commute time to work? That's going to cost you more. So housing prices you can't really escape. So we're now seeing a situation where right now the top 10% of income earners are spending 50% of all the money that's being spent in the economy. This may not be something I need to tell you either. And you notice it. People don't have discretionary income. I notice I know different kinds of people. People that are getting money are still doing the same stuff they're doing, but like regular, not losers, people with jobs like regular people, but just not upper income people. I know they're not, hey, let's meet me at BW3, let's have some they don't have extra money. And a big reason for that is the housing is eating up so much of people's money. So, what can you do about it? Well, all politics is local, and instead of just being frustrated or thinking there's nothing you can do, actually there's various reasons for this, but one big reason, and some of this grew out of something positive, and other is just rich people trying to stay rich. The environmental movement, for one thing, in certain cities, LA. As LA grew, most people that came to LA in the 40s, 50s, 60s, they were coming from Chicago, New York, Philly. They didn't want to move, to a West Coast Philly. I mean, you left that place. Outside of downtown, you can only build, I think, 4 stories. So LA's full of these 3 or whatever the limit is, 3 or 4 story, maybe it's 5-story apartment buildings. So that's a law that people chose. It's added to home prices, so because you can build less units in the same amount of space. That's one little choice. A city like Portland that had a very strong Green Party environmental movement, they didn't want urban sprawl. We don't want, like most metro areas have, did you know that Atlanta, the actual physical size of the metro area of Atlanta, is the biggest in the country? They say it's bigger than LA. It's over 110 miles from the north to the south of the sprawl. It's just so spread out. Obviously, it's far less people than metro LA, but Atlanta's so sprawled out, such an inefficient use of space, and you lose forests and streams and all this and that just to have scattered housing. So there was a big push, and Portland's the city with the strongest example of it, of forcing density. So LA forced sprawl because people didn't want to live in high rises. It's because they left cities in high rises. With high rises, they made a choice to move somewhere new, and they wanted wanted homes or low rise apartments, which is nice, which is why LA's nice, but it's fucking expensive too. Portland was the primary example, or strongest example, of the opposite, where it became very hard to get building permits for these. So Portland doesn't have a bunch of suburbs that are 30 miles outside of downtown Portland with big lawns and all that. These are choices of local politics. This is not dictated by the president or anything. So whether you live in Gary, Indiana, or an all-white area somewhere, an all-Hispanic, this is your local politics. It's so difficult. Now, this is going to sound like, this is talking points, well, except See, becomes the conflict of political parties. This should be a conservative or Republican talking point of, well, they want deregulation of a lot of things, so businesses are less regulated so they can make more profit. But it's very expensive and hard, you can't just go buy a piece of land and find some guys who are willing to build you a house. Now, of course, you don't want structures being built that are going to collapse on people, and things have to connect to the city infrastructure, and etc. But nowadays, we have a very robust solar. You can build a septic tank. If you don't know what a septic tank is, that means your toilet flushes into like into the land near your house, under your house, next to your backyard or whatever, and recycle. I'm not an expert on it. I'm sure there must be some. You do have something called a septic tank, so it goes into the septic tank, which somehow in combination with the earth cleanses the water and it comes back to it. And septic tanks work fine. You're not on a city water grid. Some of you I'm not an exact expert on that, but you don't have to be on a city water grid. You can have a septic tank thing set up pretty much anywhere. I'm in the desert. We have a septic tank, I think. No, we do. Though we do get water from the county, but it's not like it's not like huge pipes like in Detroit or something. Like back when I was visiting my father most recently in Detroit, the fucking main water line broke right by his house near Telegraph 96. And yeah, he's on the Detroit side, so don't question me. Man, it took like 4 days. There was no flushing of the toilet. Like, all the streets were, it was bad. So, you could be in a septic tank. You could get solar to power the house. Wi-Fi, Starlink. There's much, so solar replaces the need for you to be on a city's electrical grid. Now, my point is not to say that everyone should be a homesteader and going out and trying to build their own house or whatever, but if you could do this. You don't need to do this at a national, or there's probably going to be some state. You'd probably have to do some state politicking, but you'd be surprised how few votes or how few signatures that it takes to change some small laws at a state level, depending on the state you're in. But your municipality, a lessening, and listen, it's going to be complicated. It could take some years because you don't want to sacrifice too much safety. A lot of the reason for, you have to get permits is for safety, but it's a lot of city of Detroit, a city desperate for business. I know different guys have businesses or start businesses or turn from the streets to whatever. And I was at a guy's place. I go in the building where we did an interview there, and it wasn't open yet. I think it was a barber shop. I go inside. Well, it wasn't open yet. Very nice. You're done very nice inside, like real nice. On 7 Mile, there's a lot of nice buildings that are many. Even 7 Mile's dead in Detroit, which is bad. West 7 Mile. Done a very nice job. And we were talking about permits. Oh, and shout out to KK. He's got a place down the street there on 7 Mile that he's turning into a big multi-use place. The amount of permits. So the barbershop guy said the city pulled up on him like, oh, you just can't put your own sign out. And mind you, he didn't have no sign that was overhanging a sidewalk that could like fall and hurt somebody. He just had like a sign like attached, to maybe next to the front door, mounted on a brick. Like it wasn't something that could harm somebody at worst. They're like, you got to pay $1,000 to even have a sign. And then here's a list of 6 companies that you got to get the sign from. There's no shopping around. And they, of course, probably all charge the same price. I didn't follow up with the guy, but I was amazed. And same thing, KK, to do anything, to put in a bathroom, you need another, you got to pull permits. You got to pull so many permits. And this is in a city that, has hemorrhaged. There's very little going on economically, Detroit. In fact, for all of you, my fellow, grew up in the hood, the bad part of town, what you would notice the most different if you visit Detroit from your own wrong side of the tracks, there's other cities that's violent. There's a few other cities that's as violent and, different neighborhoods all around the country, violence, sell drugs, all that stuff goes on. What you would notice, because this is what I notice when I go in other bad neighborhoods, how little businesses there are. Bad part of New York, LA, Chicago. Chicago's kind of like Detroit. Nothing, there's gas stations. There used to be Black Hair Care Supply. Those are very few of those left. They're out in the suburbs. Gas stations and liquor stores. Like literally. And hookah spots, dope spots posing as hookah lounges, but we won't get into that. But, so forget all this politics that'll really help you is not that exciting. Forget the Epstein files, forget ICE. If it was easier to build housing prices would go down. There is a pent-up demand for housing. It's hard to build a house. It's expensive to build a house. So they're pushing people into these, get a tiny home and this and that. Well, that's cool if you want to do that, but how about I can just buy some land and do what I want with it? In fact, the mass migration of Americans from the east, northeast, and the Midwest, Detroit, Chicago, Ohio. New York received so many immigrants. New York's population continued to grow, but the people that were living in New York in 1960 or 70 don't live there now for the most part. It's new people. Who are all the people that moved to Texas and Florida and earlier California and are moving to Colorado and Phoenix? They're people from cities that are older, that have much more highly restrictive zoning. And I'm not saying that's all the difference between the cities, but like even LA, second biggest city in the country, one of the world's, I think it's the 3rd largest economy. New York, Tokyo, LA, or maybe Tokyo, New York, LA. No, New York's gotta be number 1. Where is it, Tokyo? You'd be surprised. You can if you got a location, you can kind of do what you want with it, I guess. There must be city inspectors, but I don't hear people complaining about them in LA like they complain about them in Detroit, a place that should be happy to have someone doing anything. It's just that nobody, and it's not a conspiracy. Nobody has, because it's boring changing laws about pulling permits. And once upon a time, when those laws were being passed, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, when Detroit was booming, the city could make money by, you putting something on 7 Mile, you got money and you're about to make money. You pull a permit and we want to make sure there's no problems. Cool. The less that's going on, the more worse things are, you can build in a little more risk. A little quicker to build, I get it. You should, and like the requirements for handicap, which should exist, but maybe you you only got a 6-seat restaurant, maybe we don't have a handicap bathroom, because some places don't have a bathroom at all. Maybe you up the requirements. It's not an easy, there's a lot of things, and that's what real politics are. Not protesting isn't politics, not to say you shouldn't protest. protesting is just getting out your anger, which may be part of the whole political process, but that's boring stuff, like figuring out how people with jobs, not building free houses for people who get high and lay on the ground, but people who work, building millions of new homes across the United States that are regular homes, that are conform to general safety standards, but removing a lot of this ridiculous stuff. Maybe the home's a little bit simpler, or whatever the case may be. A wider range of homes being possible, where maybe you can. I mean, once upon a time, Sears catalog. Did you know? Well, for those who even remember Sears, Sears was the biggest company in the world in the 1960s when it built the Sears Tower in Chicago, and that was the tallest building in the world. That's why the Sears Tower building was the taller than Empire State Building, and it was in Chicago, its headquarters. Sears, in the 1800s and the early 1900s, they made, before they got to department stores, the Sears catalog. It went to every nook and cranny in America. People ordered homes. Could order a kit to build a home. There's many people living in homes that were built out of a Sears catalog kit in different parts of the United States. I don't think that would be legal now. So, you want to change things. I just told you something you can do on a local level. You're going to need to familiarize yourself with the particular problems in your area and the zoning code. You're going to have to learn some boring stuff or connect. There's, whatever city you live in, there are housing. There's people doing this. There's people working on housing. There's lawyers volunteering their time. There's students from, like, urban studies department. I'm sure there's contractors that would come and sit for, they would be down to have on Sunday afternoon for an hour twice a month, have a meeting and explain some stuff to people. And you could start to just incrementally make some changes in your own hometown so that maybe you could own a home, or if just some other people start building some homes, it reduces the price pressure on all the existing homes. It doesn't have to be you who lives in one of these new homes. These could be for, at the beginning, poorer people, lower income, young people. They got to go through the hassle. They build, but then that reduces the pressure on the overall price level. So that's something you could do. Now, why did what happened in AI, something specific, cause the NASDAQ to tank, and what's the implications for your stock portfolio, though you should be in an index fund? But the problem is now the index funds are so heavily weighted to tech stocks because they make up such a large part of the stock market. Anthropic, which has Claude and AI, which I use, I like Claude, they introduced like an add-on module that will do legal research. So that's just one particular field, but it works very well. So a lot of businesses sell SaaS, software as a service. I mean, Microsoft Office, software as a service. It makes spreadsheets, PowerPoint presentations. If you've ever worked in a corporate America job, it's a lot of spreadsheets and PowerPoints. That's what my experience with interacting with people working at corporate stuff. They're making a lot of spreadsheets, PowerPoints. AI can just do it on the fly, so you don't need an Excel. You just tell your AI, make me a spreadsheet. Hey, you have access to all my company's data. Make me a spreadsheet for this. And it doesn't need the intermediary of Excel. If people don't need to pay for a license for Excel, Microsoft Word, Adobe products, Photoshop, Premiere, CapCut, blah, 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 you're going to see apps disappearing. There's not going to be apps. There's not going to be programs. There'll just be the AI interface. It's going to happen first in software related to like general corporate America work. And there's a lot of big companies, some of the world's biggest companies, again, Microsoft, that's what their business is. It's a piece of software that lets you do certain stuff. But if AI can do it on the fly, so I would be careful with any business that's dependent on some special software that it sells or it uses, or some code or some non-physical thing. I mean, anything related to doing something on the computer is possibly, I mean, I can't tell you every specific thing, but is gonna be subject to some degree of the AI just does it on the fly, exactly tailored for you. And that's what spooked people when they saw that, which is just one implementation specifically in the legal field in Claude AI. Go read about Claude, C-L-A-W-D, Claude bots, so you can learn more about some different stuff and read about Anthropic's legal plugin and get in tune with your local housing movement, because really that more than anything would help a big chunk of Americans. There was a lot more homes built and apartments built, not unsafe ones, not horrible ones, not tiny houses, not free ones for homeless people. Just, it was easier to build stuff. Profit American Dope.